So, folks, we have to talk about a pretty scary story, which I kind of plopped onto the internet, and I don't know what really people are making of this so far. But Trump officials move into military residences in D.C. area. Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth moved into a home at Fort McNair, traditionally reserved for the Army's Vice Chief of Staff. Secretary of State Marco Rubio and others now live in military housing. And, that's just on the face of it, that's pretty not great. But I know some people are seeing this story and they're like, oh man, they're hunkering down. They're getting in the bunkers. They're about ready to unleash like war upon the United States of America. And I'm just here to tell you that's not what's happening. What's happening here is that these people are scared shitless. They are deeply, deeply paranoid, and they are deeply, deeply aware of how unpopular their regime is. They know. They saw the No Kings protests. They see the polling numbers. They see Donald Trump circling the drain at the lowest level of popularity he's ever had. And they are deeply, deeply worried. Now, why might they be worried? What are a couple reasons? Well, number one is that they can't really keep it together. Hegseth orders the military to detail dozens of attorneys to the Justice Department, AP learns. So basically, the Associated Press here learned that the military under Pete Hegseth is being ordered to send military lawyers to work for the DOJ because the DOJ doesn't have enough lawyers to continue doing what they're supposed to do, or do what the administration wants them to do, because the good lawyers have been leaving in droves. They don't have enough, they can't retain people who are willing to carry out this administration's dirty work, right? Like they can't do it because the things they're doing are so utterly without lawful precedent that lawyers who want to remain lawyers and not get disbarred are leaving, And like all of this is going on, and Donald Trump is just out there posting crazy nonsense. Like I don't know how many of you guys saw this, like earlier today. He ordered nuclear testing to resume during the government shutdown when nuclear workers aren't being paid by the government. Like, hey guys, do you want to start doing nuclear tests with people who aren't getting paid? You want to give people like the ability to test nuclear weapons when they're not being paid? What? And by the way, one of the reasons we haven't been testing nuclear weapons is because they have devastating environmental consequences. And also, ratchet up an arms race. Other countries can make nukes. We deliberately stopped testing nuclear weapons so that nuclear proliferation would stop. Or at least slow down. So, like, there are just ideas here that are on the face terrible. And they can't even keep the highly specialized personnel that they already have. And on top of that, folks, like you're seeing every day the administration officials going out there and lying nonstop.
I can't hear you. There's no American citizens have been arrested or detained. We focus on those that are here illegally, and anything that you would hear or report that would be different than that is simply not true and false reporting.
Fun fact about that. ProPublica did a piece, and just from their preliminary survey earlier this month, found over 170 U.S. citizens that have been held by immigration agents and tortured. So, yeah. Agents have arrested about 130 Americans, including a dozen elected officials, for allegedly interfering with or assaulting officers, yet those cases were often dropped. More than 20 citizens have reported being held for over a day without being able to call their loved ones or a lawyer. In some cases, their families couldn't find them. We see the videos. We see people being beaten by ICE agents. We see them getting detained by ICE agents. We read the stories, and keep in mind here that Kristi Noem in this clip is only talking about US citizens. Now, that's a very careful choice of words because there are other people who are legally allowed to be inside the United States. Permanent residents, folks with green cards. And those people have in some cases been detained not just for days, but months. We have examples of people here on tourist visas who've been tortured and returned to their countries tortured with severe medical issues as a result. We have mass arrested and detained for over a week South Korean engineers who were here legally to help the United States set up an auto manufacturing plant. They were here legally. Yeah, there was a story just the other day, exactly, Amber Brains, about a US citizen who's 67 years old and had 6 of his ribs broken by ICE agents. They just pulled him over and beat on him. The idea, the gall to go out there and lie when, if anyone has any amount of social media presence, they are aware that these are lies. It's just so bald-faced. It's just so obvious. And then you have things like this, right? Where the administration is just going out there and saying things that the KKK would say. Genuinely, this is JD Vance here is echoing the sentiments of the fucking Ku Klux Klan.
Who's out of a house is actually evicted from the house because there are people who are going to pay more for rent. And then what happens is 20 people move into a 3-bedroom house. 20 people from a totally different culture, totally different ways of interacting. Again, we can respect their dignity while also being angry at the Biden administration for letting that situation happen and recognizing that their next door neighbors are going to say, well, wait a second. What is going on here? I don't know these people. They don't speak the same language that I do. And because there are 20 in the house next door, it's a little bit rowdier than it was when there was just a family of 4, a family of 5. It is totally reasonable and acceptable for American citizens to look at their next door neighbors and say, I want to live next to people who I have something in common with. I don't want to live next to 4 families of strangers. And the fact that we had news out of the house.
This is just straight up racism. It is not reasonable whatsoever to be like, oh, yeah, I don't want to live next to people who speak a different language. We live here in America, in the United States of America. I'm sorry, it's totally unreasonable to be like, I don't want to live next to people who speak a different language. I don't want to live next to people who don't look like me. I mean, I guess if you don't want that, go live on one of those KKK, private startups that are popping up all over the South. You know? They got, private corporations now that are buying up land and white supremacists can move to so that they can be not around non-white people. What JD Vance here is saying is basic recruitment rhetoric for the KKK. It's really, really gross. And they understand that it is odious and hateful rhetoric. They get it. And that's one of the reasons they are constantly afraid, because JD Vance would not say this to someone if he were not, surrounded by the private security, or the Secret Service, I guess. He wouldn't say this without a position of privilege and power that prevents any kind of response. This guy is full of shit. And the rest of the administration is too. Like, we're talking about, this is the waste, fraud, and anti-waste, fraud, and abuse administration, right? Like, ostensibly, they are all about cutting that waste, fraud, and abuse. And look at what happens with Kash Patel. Sure looks like Kash Patel used the FBI's jet to go on a date. A jet took off from Virginia and landed near Patel's jet destination right around the time the FBI director was there. Oh, weird. FBI Director Kash Patel met his girlfriend at Penn State this past weekend to watch a wrestling match, but his travel to the university stadium appears to have been on the American public's dime. Patel made the trek to support his girlfriend, country singer Alexis Wilkins, who performed a song as part of, quote, Real American Freestyle, unquote, a wrestling promotion co-founded earlier this year by the late Hulk Hogan. The federal law enforcement director was definitely there. Wilkins snapped and posted a picture of him. Nothing controversial about attending a wrestling match. How Patel made his way to the college has become the focus of some unflattering attention. Because again, a lot of things are lining up that indicate this man used a publicly funded jet to go on a date with his girlfriend. I call BS. Who the hell would want to date him? Well, I believe he's, how old is he? Okay, his girlfriend is 26. And Kash Patel is 45 years old. So, might be some power imbalances between the head of the FBI and a 26-year-old MAGA singer. But, what do I know? Now, also worth noting that the FBI director's jet is a $60 million jet. It is a very expensive vehicle to just on a whim take to your date. And just throwing that out there. Pretty interesting and important to note that it is, in fact, that expensive.
Travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. Mark Twain, American hero.
Mark Twain was an American hero. Thank you for the $5 dono, Nomi Sunrider.
Credit Patel is only 22.
Saki Tanuki, thank you for the 5 tier 1 subs. So, all that being said, if you have billed your entire administration as being against waste, fraud, and abuse, right? If you have billed your entire administration about being against the misuse of government funds, and you have the head of the FBI taking his $60 million jet to go to a wrestling match with his girlfriend, that's pretty fucking gross. That's pretty gross. Just saying. And all of that being said, you now have the guy from the Heritage Foundation, the president of the Heritage Foundation, Kevin Roberts, going out, and for those of you who forgot, Kevin Roberts and
Barter Patel
Heritage
is at least 1,000 years old.
Jesus. But the head of the Heritage Foundation here is coming out. They wrote Project 2025, the whole fascist plan. Head of the Heritage Foundation coming out and saying, hey, it's good that Tucker Carlson interviewed and mainstreamed a neo-Nazi. And if you think I'm kidding, here you go.
I'll have more to say on this in the coming days, but today I want to be clear about one thing. Christians can critique the state of Israel without being anti-Semitic. And of course, anti-Semitism should be condemned. My loyalty as a Christian and as an American is to Christ first and to America always. When it serves the interests of the United States to cooperate with Israel...
Wait, but not to Christ always? Wait a minute. Wait a minute.
...Israel and other allies, we should do so, with partnerships on security, intelligence, and technology. But when it doesn't, conservatives should feel no obligation to reflexively support any foreign government, no matter how loud the pressure becomes from the globalist class or from their mouthpieces.
The globalist class. Again, he's engaging in the neo-Nazi shit.
In Washington. The Heritage Foundation didn't become the intellectual backbone of the conservative movement by canceling our own people or policing the consciences of Christians. And we won't start doing that now.
For those of you who don't recognize the dog whistle, globalists that's usually a dog whistle for the Jews.
We don't take direction from comments on X, though we are grateful for the robust free speech debate. We also don't take direction from members or donors.
I don't think that's true. Given that you do the exact things that your members and donors want you to do.
Racist, sexist, Republican, these words are virtually interchangeable.
Though we are inherently grateful for their support, and we're adding more every day. This is the robust debate we invite with our colleagues, our movement friends, our members, and the American public. We will always defend truth. We will always defend America, and we will always defend our friends against the slander of bad actors who serve someone else's agenda. That includes Tucker Carlson, who remains, and as I have said before, always will be a close friend of the Heritage Foundation. The venomous coalition attacking him are sowing division.
Again, just to clarify, people are criticizing Tucker Carlson for mainstreaming a neo-Nazi, Nick Fuentes. Again, Nick Fuentes has been a neo-Nazi publicly on the internet for I don't even know, 10 years?
Their attempt to cancel him will fail. Most importantly, the American people expect us to be focusing on our political adversaries on the left, not attacking our friends on the right. I disagree with, and even abhor, things that Nick Fuentes says. But canceling him is not the answer either.
Yeah, no, guys, don't cancel the neo-Nazi. And by cancel, I mean criticize. Don't criticize the neo-Nazi.
When we disagree with a person's thoughts and opinions, we challenge those ideas in debate. And we have seen success.
Yeah, which is why Tucker Carlson challenged them in debate and agreed with every single one of Nick Fuentes' points.
Success in this approach, as we continue to dismantle the vile ideas of the left. As my friend Vice President Vance said last night, what I am not okay with is any country coming before the interest of American citizens,
Yeah, which is why, the Trump administration gave $40 billion to Argentina while, SNAP is about to be not funded. The United States government under Donald Trump would never deliberately starve its citizens.
It is important for all of us, assuming we are American citizens, to put the interest of our own country first. That's where our allegiance lies, and that's where it will stay.
Yeah, basically what you are seeing here is the realignment of the mainstream conservative position to be with anti-Semites. Because we all already know it's totally fine to critique the policies of a state. It is fine to advocate for everyone to have human rights, within Israel and the occupied territories. And it is also fine to criticize Israel's policies
right now. Let me at him.
And I also just want to really hammer home here that when Nick Fuentes is criticizing Israel, he's not criticizing Israel because it is like an ethno-state, or because it is engaging in genocide, or because of any of those, any of those viable reasons. He's criticizing it because he doesn't like Jews. That's why neo-Nazis do that. They engage in attacking organizations that are associated with Jewish people because they seek to co-opt different social movements in order to try and recruit young, passionate folks who might be vulnerable and misled by their posturing. This is one of the ways that they do this. It's been one of the ways they do this for a long time. You can see how part of how they do this in the radicalization efforts of neo-Nazis in places like 4chan, for example, historically. Like, well, depraved ambiance, I argue that this is a shift and a realignment, largely because there have been two competing factions within the current conservative movement. And I think the death of Charlie Kirk opened up a vacuum that basically collapsed that debate. And so what we're seeing now is less of the, we're conservatives and we need to defend Israel for the evangelical base. And now we're pivoting that base into embrace anti-Semitism because it's not, we must be against the Jews, right? Like that's kind of where we're at. And keep in mind, like, the evangelical Zionism is also predicated on anti-Semitism because their entire premise is that by getting all of the Jews into Israel and like cementing Israel's geopolitical footprint, it will summon Jesus to do the end times, which of course includes killing all the Jews. So like, either way it was anti-Semitic, but one was channeling the anti-Semitism towards like the evangelical apocalypse cult, and the other is channeling it into anti-Semitism. So it was going in two different directions, and now it's going in one direction, and that is deeply concerning to anyone who understands what's happening here, right? But all of that to say, like, what does that have to do with these folks living in like military bunkers? Like, why is that at all relevant? And it's relevant because these people are out to cut $1 trillion from your healthcare. These people are out here right now arguing in favor of starving the American public while they give out billions in subsidies to their rich friends. While they defend neo-Nazis publicly, while they talk about the need to racially segregate from folks who look different from you and speak different than you. They're out there doing every day the most vile shit imaginable. Whether it is relatively small and innocuous, like wasting government funds on going on a date, or something big like starving tens of millions of people, including 23 million children. The entire government shutdown right now is predicated on trying to claw back subsidies for the American public. Because what you're looking at right now is catastrophic. Okay? This is from just earlier today, the New York Times. Oh, here's how much Obamacare prices are rising across the country. And it's not great. Changes in 2026 monthly premiums without extra subsidies. If you are over the age of 80 or 60 rather, and you make $65,000, you should expect to pay $920 more. If you are over the age of 60 and you make over $95,000 a year, you should expect to pay $714 more. Again, this is per month. Per month. We're talking like, oh, you could expect to pay $12,000 more per month territory. A little bit less than that. You guys all have an extra $12,000 laying around in your retirement funds if you're over 60? Probably not. Probably not. But even if you are under that age, like you start looking at, over the age of 40, you got an extra $2,400 laying around? Probably not. Like most people in this country can't afford emergency payments. And like it is going to vary all across the country. I'm going to link this in all of the chats here because it is, I think, that important for you guys to have an idea of what is happening with these prices, because it's genuinely insane. Here is the increase to monthly premiums for individuals earning $65,000 if subsidies expire, right? You can look at the different ages and how it changes. And like, if you are over the age of 60, like, look at that. Look at that chat. It's going to devastate the reddest parts of America financially. Like, they understand that they know, like Pete Hegseth and the Trump cabinet, they know that what is coming down the pipeline is going to piss off everybody. And that's just talking about healthcare subsidies. We're not talking about the folks who are going to be affected by cutting Medicaid, which is going to in turn shut down rural hospitals. Meaning, hey, you live in the middle of nowhere in Nebraska? Guess what? You have a 3-hour-long trip to the nearest hospital now. We are talking about pain on scale. And like, it's going to hit older folks harder because they are the highest risk pool, right? That has typically been subsidized so that folks, who are older don't blow their entire retirement funds on just their healthcare costs. But the effect is also going to be prominent for middle-aged folks and younger folks. Like, in some of these cases, like, we're even looking at here some states where even if you're 27 and you make $65,000 a year, your monthly premium is going up $500. $500. And so, like, I just want to really emphasize here, we aren't even talking about folks who are going to lose all healthcare because Medicaid got cut. We're not even talking about folks who are going to be left on the street to their own devices. And so they know they are pissing off not just like tens of thousands of people, hell, not even millions of people. They're going to piss off tens of millions of people, maybe even hundreds of millions, frankly. And they are somewhat aware of this. And so they are retreating to their bunkers. And that's, again, barely even touching on the fact that SNAP, emergency food assistance, is being cut off on November 1st to over 40 million Americans, 23 million of whom are children. And so when you combine these two pictures, the pictures, 3 pictures, I guess, you have Medicaid cuts, you have Obamacare subsidies that are being cut, and you have SNAP being cut off during this government shutdown. You've got those 3 things coming together. It already paints an electorate that is angrier than we have probably ever seen it in our lives. Like, the only person I can think of that might be an exception to that would be my grandma, who is 99 years old and was born during the Great Depression. And that's not even taking into account the fact that the AI bubble is likely going to burst in the near future. It's not taking into account the additional picture of rank incompetence and inability to actually govern that this administration is demonstrating. They are scared shitless because these are a bunch of podcasters who got put in charge of, like, the FBI. This is like an anti-vax, like, new age spiritual guru guy who got put in charge of HHS. You've got people who are wildly out of their depth, kowtowing to a man who has definitely been senile for at least like 4 or 5 months minimum. I gotta be honest, they're scared. The guy who's leading our military is a Fox TV news host. And so, like, yeah, they're scared shitless. When they turn on the news and they see 7 million people turned out in the streets, they are aware that that is a flex of power. They are aware that that organizing is powerful and it sends a message of power to them. And they understand that the amount of people is only going to go up. The amount of people in the streets is only going to go up the angrier folks get. And folks are getting pretty damn angry. You cannot starve people. You cannot demand that, those who live in poverty just watch their loved ones die and expect there to be no response from the public. What is it? 9 missed meals because shit pops off? I mean, it is like the saying is something along the lines of like, yeah, society is only ever, several missed meals away from revolution. And it's true, because you got tens of millions of people starving. They will do what they have to do in order to eat. These people are cowardly and incompetent and greedy and destructive to the fabric and the very concept of democracy and freedom. They know their positions are unpopular. They know on some level their own incompetence and inability to do the job. And so they are fleeing. They are fleeing as far away as they can, which, when you are a member of the president's cabinet, is military housing in and around DC. That's what's happening. They're afraid. So let that fuel your heart, let that fuel your passion, and continue to be loud, continue to encourage others to be loud, and continue to take action in your community to keep you and yours safe. Do not let this wanton hatred that they have attempted to spread amongst us divide us or silence us. So, that being said, if you enjoyed this, like, comment, and subscribe. And if you are looking to get involved in your local area and don't know where to start, you can always start with your local Dems, radicalize them to better politics. And you can also start with your local DSA, make them more effective. If you need help joining either, join our Discord, just !Discord in any of the chats. You'll get a link. Come on in, reach out to Gamergy for help joining DSA, reach out to Dragonfly for help joining your local Dems, and I guarantee you can get some shit done in your local area. All right?
Riverboat deck is coming to town. All the viewers gather round. Twitch and YouTube and swishy streams. All that content is bursting the seams. Politics, dating, plenty more. Your sense of fashion you'll adore. So grab your stuff and hop aboard. We're going straight to Jack's Discord.